Today I'm going to be answering the question that I've been asked a lot over the past 2 weeks. Winnebago Revel or the Storyteller Overland mode? What's going on, everyone? Back with another episode of Stuff and Things. Today is my very last day with the Storyteller Overland Stealth, so I figured no better time than now to give you guys a side-by-side comparison of my personal van, the 2018 chassis 2019 Winnebago Revel, and the 2022 chassis Storyteller Overland Stealth. Now, like I mentioned in some videos in the past, like the walk around, you can check out a full Storyteller playlist right up here in the corner. This comparison isn't really apples to apples. I bought my van about 3 years ago and I traveled and lived out of it, made a ton of modifications to make my personal van fit my lifestyle and basically suited for what I want to do with the van. The Storyteller, on the other hand, is basically stock right how it comes from Storyteller, so I've got a lot of thoughts in my head. I'm going to sort of dump them here all in one video. There's going to be a lot to talk about, so I will leave some chapters down below on the progress bar. You can click on individual chapters and fast forward to the part that you are most interested in. Now, with all of that being said, let's first talk about the overall buying experience. I, of course, have not bought a Storyteller Overland yet. I don't know if that is something in my future, but I might be able to decide a little bit easier after getting out all of my thoughts in this video. So one thing to note is that when purchasing a Revel, you're looking at Winnebago dealers, and their dealer network is pretty large. They've got a huge product line and they're sold in almost every state across America. Winnebago is a very big brand. Storyteller, on the other hand, is a much smaller brand, but they're still putting out kick-ass vehicles. So when it comes to the buying experience of the Revel, you're going to have a larger dealer network, and when purchasing a van like the Revel, it's basically going to be like purchasing a new car. You can sort of check out different prices from different dealers depending on their inventory. Prices right now are through the roof and crazy, and we'll talk about actual prices in a little bit. So one good side of going with a Revel is that you have a dealer network. If you ever run into any issues, there's a good chance that you are closer to a Winnebago dealer than you are a Storyteller dealer. On top of that, I'll also mention that getting into a dealer for service is insane right now. Some people are waiting weeks and even months to get their vehicles looked at, so that's something to keep in mind as well. Now, Storyteller, on the other hand, dealer network is not quite as large as Winnebago. However, talking with other Storyteller owners out there, again, I have not purchased this van, so I'm just sort of reiterating what I've heard. The buying experience seems much more personalized when going with a Storyteller. The dealer network is smaller, but you are getting to talk to really high ups in the company. I've even heard of owners of Storyteller sitting down and talking with customers about delivery dates and timelines, troubleshooting, and all sorts of different stuff involving the vans. If I had to pick a buying experience, I would probably pick the Storyteller buying experience just because it is more personalized. I would feel a little bit safer about spending a huge sum of money when I get personalized contacts at the company like that. Now for the actual pricing. The Winnebago Revels right now, if you're getting a 22 or possibly even a 2023, prices are outrageous. Prices are outrageous just in general for everything nowadays. I believe the MSRP on the newest Revels are sitting at about $180,000 to $182,000. I talked about this in my Problems About the Storyteller video, which you can find up in that playlist. These type of vehicles, these vans, are not for everyone. Generally, it's split between two different demographics. Someone who's looking to get a van like this to live in full time, and then on the other side of the spectrum, there's people who have an abundance of money, a big disposable income, and they just like these for just sort of like weekend getaway adventure rigs. There are some people mixed in the middle there, but for the most part, it's like those two main demographics. So purchasing a van like this for a majority of people out there is a huge investment, and there's a lot of thought that goes into this. So the Revel, like I mentioned, around $180,000 for the newest chassis. I bought mine a long time ago, so I didn't pay anywhere near that. I would say that my Revel, with all of the modifications that I've done over the years, would put me in the price bracket today, if I were to resell it, between a Storyteller Overland mode Stealth and the mode Beast. Now, a good thing about the Storyteller pricing, if you're getting a Stealth mode or a Beast mode or even a Classic mode, they also make an LT on the Ford chassis. All of their pricing is what they call see-through pricing, meaning you know exactly what you are buying, all of the functionality and systems in the van as you are purchasing it. If you buy a van in New York, California, Colorado, no matter where you're at in the country, a Storyteller dealer's price is going to remain the same across the board. No haggling, no trying to get a better deal. It's all cut and dry, very simple, and that is something that I truly appreciate. Now, I talked to a few different dealers when purchasing my van, so I was able to get the best feeling deal for me at the time. In today's day and age, haggling seems pretty much out the window at this point, so if you're looking to get a Revel, I don't know what to tell you. Good luck, I guess. Hopefully you can find a good deal out there. So the Revels roughly are coming in at about $180K right now. All of the Storyteller Overland models that are built on the Sprinter chassis, starting with the Classic. Classic starts at $157,000. The Stealth mode, which I've been living in for the past 2 weeks, comes in at $169,000. And then the Beast mode, which is the highest premium package with all sorts of accessories, kind of similar to how my van is sitting right now, but not quite there all the way. The Beast mode is coming in at $198,000. Again, huge investment. I know people hate when you talk about prices like that, which is why I don't talk about price in videos very often. But that is the reality of purchasing a crazy rig like this. Now, both of the vans in their stock form are pretty comparable. They have a lot of similar features. My van, however, as it sits, heavily modified. I've done a lot to make this van as comparable to the Beast mode as possible, probably, in my opinion at least, more functional than the Beast mode, but that was done over about a 3-year span when prices weren't as insane as they are today. So instead of just going head to head, I think I'm gonna tackle the rest of this video as if I was purchasing a Storyteller. So I'm gonna tell you guys why I would purchase a Revel or a Storyteller, and then I'm going to tell you with the model of Storyteller that I would purchase, what I would do to it to make it a van of my own. This is going to be a lot of personal preferences and opinions throughout this video. Some owners of both Revels and Storytellers may agree with me, they may not. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. I'm just giving you my opinion on these vans from my own perspective, and if you watch my videos, you guys already know what I do with these vans. So let's start off with a really quick overview of my van, and then we'll get into the Storyteller Stealth. Now, you guys have seen my van time and time again, so as the base Revel sits, it's a great van. However, I like going off-roading, camping as far off-grid as possible. So as far as modifications go, I've got a Backwoods Adventure Mod bumper, lighting from Rigid all across the bottom bumper, across the top as well. I've got a Warn Evo VR10 series winch in there with a synthetic cable. This thing is frozen up right now. Underneath the hood, I have relocated the S-bar heating system. That way I can use the engine heat to heat the actual cabin of the van. We also put a secondary heat exchanger in there and a circulating pump. That way when the heater is running and I'm going to start the van while it's cold, I can flip that switch and let the engine heat up a little bit. That way it's not so cold of a start. We have a Terrawagon snorkel on this side. Agile rip kit all around. So this is some very premium Fox suspension in there. The ride improvement is huge. 4700 leaf springs in the rear. I have a Backwoods Adventure Mod ladder on the side. When we climb up to the roof, initially the Revels come with a 100-watt solar panel. It's actually 105. I have 3 of those now, so roughly 315 watts of solar. I've updated the AC unit to a pneumatic cooling 12-volt unit, easier on the power system. WeBoost over here, Max Tracks, traction boards, there is an awning on the other side which I don't use very often, and the solar mounting kit and the Max Track mounting kit also came from Agile Off-Road. Coming around to the back, Backwoods Adventure Mods rear bumper, Pathfinder lighting, Agile rear tire carrier, Method standard race wheels, BF Goodrich all-terrains. These are 275s. It is the biggest tire that I could fit without cutting and doing a bunch of extreme stuff. Alvan's Sherpa carrier on this side with a DMOS snow shovel. I have 2 roto packs for diesel. And then coming around to this side, the only thing I've added is a little half door stop there. That thing is super inexpensive and very nice addition to the van. Now, coming to the inside. First modification that you may see is Inhabit Design Works floor or carpet material. This acts as an insulator. They are removable, so I can wipe the whole van out, spray it down. Really good investment because it keeps things a little bit more insulated and also makes the van a lot easier to clean. Up front here, everything looks fairly stock. However, I do have a Roam Rig / Owl Vans beatbox stereo system. The stereo in this sounds absolutely amazing now. The Stealth that we're parked next to also has an upgraded package for the Stealth. I believe they are JL audio. Door speakers, maybe something else. This thing sounds a lot better. Got patch collection. I wrapped some of the stuff. Also, my hood is wrapped with the same multicam material. This entire bench seat we ripped out, rebuilt it with the Roam Rig Stage 3 system. So I have a secondary alternator, pumps crazy power. I have roughly 630 amp hours of lithium under here. The entire control panel is analog, which is something that I love. You guys probably know that by now. All of the lights are on physical switches, bright, dim, cabinet lights, bathroom lights. I got access to my Rixon thermostat here. This is now digital. The Rixon S-Bar controls right here, house battery, water, everything here is manual switches, not pressing on a screen. Even the inverter, that's a huge plus. Now moving to the back, I really haven't updated much here. Basically everything is the same. I did do a few maintenance things like replace the water pump. I replaced some plumbing over here. For the bathroom is standalone, acts as a storage closet, so there is no setup needed. That's something that we'll talk about with the Storyteller. Cassette toilet on the side, 21 gallons of fresh water, 21 gallons of gray. In this cabinet up front, I've mounted my WeBoost module. We got a Max Air fan on the roof. And then moving back to the bedroom. This bed system is essentially stock coming from Winnebago, so it is a Euroloft system, which means if I press this switch on the wall back here, the bed is able to raise up. Now before we go all the way up with the bed, here's a quick look at the interior of the Nomadic Cooling 12 volt AC. Now we'll go up the rest of the way. So inside the back here, I have some bed risers and the GLSS system, garage lounge storage system from Canyon Adventure Vans, lagoon table, bamboo top. These bed risers allow me to keep my bed elevated a little bit so I can fit motorcycles and mountain bikes underneath here. Also have a microwave and recovery gear, all sorts of storage for camping stuff. I've also upgraded all the window coverings. This is from thisvanlife.net. They are expensive, but well worth the money. Got it for the rear window. The shades are built into the actual Revel windows. And then I have more shades for the front. Now the reason I went through all of those modifications with you guys is because a lot of those modifications can be found in higher models like the Beast. The Storyteller Beast Mode 4x4 will come standard with an Agile Rip Kit. One thing that I forgot to mention about my van is that I have an ARB twin compressor onboard air. I've got 2 air connections, both under the hood and one under the rear bumper. The Storyteller Beast also comes with some Baja lighting, a different rack on the top. Front runner rack, I believe owl racks in the rear, so it's pretty comparable to my van, but mine just has a little bit more personality and a little bit more functionality to it as well. And then if you take a step down to the Stealth mode, this one has stock suspension. It does not have onboard air. It does not have any exterior lighting other than the nice upgraded LED headlights. Stock headlights on my van, not great. It does come with a front runner rack on the top, which you can walk on, which is super nice. Only a 90 watt panel up there. And it does have the Invader rack system on the back, which is, in my opinion, probably like a step down when compared to the Owl Van products, but it is nice to have some functionality back there. You can mount rotopack, shovel, and I believe you can even mount a full-size spare tire on there. Now if we take a step all the way down to the Classic, that is basically bare bones. The interiors are almost exactly the same. You're going to get the Illuminous ladder that comes on all of the Storytellers, but you're not going to get the Invader racks in the rear. I haven't actually experienced a Classic in person. Most of the time people have either a Stealth or a Beast mode, but the Classic is coming in at the lowest price, and for that reason, mixed with my love for modifying vehicles, That's why I would choose a Storyteller Overland Classic. So if I was going with a Storyteller, I would purchase a Classic and modify it myself. So before we get into the final decision of Revel versus Storyteller, you don't know which van you want to buy, let's walk through the Stealth as if it were a Classic, and I will tell you guys some of the things that I would change on it to make it my own. Now for the Stealth. One thing to note about this whole experience is that I would purchase a Classic over a Beast and modify it myself, but if you are someone who's concerned about resale value, the Beast is going to have more value when you go to resell it because it started at a higher price. A lot of times if you buy a cheaper van and put a bunch of money into it, that will not transfer over into the resale price. It can with the right buyer, but overall it's going to have a higher resale value if it was originally purchased for a higher price. So if you're not into modifying vehicles, then you might want to look at the Stealth or even the Beast. As you guys know, I'm not worried about any of that, so that's why I would choose the Classic. Now, modifying this thing myself, I would of course like bumpers, lighting, winch, onboard air, all of that stuff the Beast does have. However, I would go with some different companies for different components, probably even different companies based off of the stuff that you saw me do with my van now. Now, like I mentioned, under my hood, I have the secondary heat exchanger. This comes with it right from the factory, so does the Classic. So you really don't have to change anything with the electrical or water systems in these vans. We'll talk about more once we get to the inside. I would definitely change out the suspension over the past 2 weeks, riding around on stock Sprinter suspension, not the greatest. I would get bigger tires, definitely change out the wheels too. The stock suspension is fine for driving on the road, but as soon as you get into some washboard stuff or really any off-road situation, it's going to be lacking quite a lot. On the side here, an extra feature that you have is the M Power Station. 27 amp output on this thing, so I could basically charge this van or any other van based off of the power system in here. 12 kilowatts, roughly 1,000 amp hours if you do the conversion, so crazy power system in this. Here you have the smart plug, a luminous ladder. I actually had this on my Revel originally, and I prefer the backwoods one now, but it's still a nice ladder. And then if we come up to the roof, front runner rack up here, and as you can see, you can walk all over it, so a ton of space. One solar panel on this side, 90 watts. The reason they do that is so you could put something like a kayak the full length of this rack here. You do have an awning that is a little bit nicer than the one on the Revel. And if I was purchasing a Classic, I actually wouldn't even add any more solar because that panel honestly doesn't do a whole lot. The alternator in this van is plenty enough to keep up with the power system after running the battery down to about 0. You can get it back up to 100% after driving for like an hour or 2. So I love all of the space on this roof. On my van, can't really walk on those solar panels, but it is nice to have because if I leave the van parked, this is something that you're not going to be able to do with this. I can leave my van parked all summer long with the fridge running and any other like little parasitic draws in the van, and it will stay at 100% all the time. Definitely cannot say the same thing about these panels. I would also put some max tracks on a Storyteller Classic, and this is a Coleman Mach Q, very similar to the AC system that I ripped off of my van originally. I would definitely like a 12 volt unit compared to this. However, with a beefier power system that a Classic would have, it should do okay with running that. Also on the side here, city fill, just like my van has. I believe this is a vent for some of the plumbing. Now coming around to the back of the Stealth, here is a look at the Invader racks. Of course, I would still have roto packs for fuel, diesel. If I was going with a Classic though, I would opt for the Al Vans offerings. I think these racks are just a little bit nicer and it's more of like a standard functionality. These have these weird connections which allow you to mount up things with like standard hardware, which is cool. However, I just prefer the Al Vans carrier a little bit more. The up dog step on the rear is very nice for getting up into the back of the van. One other thing that I like about this newer chassis is the camera system. So this is optioned with the bird's eye view. You got one camera in the rear there, one camera under each mirror, and then a front camera as well. This allows you to see basically 360 all around the van, and it makes navigating in tight spaces very nice. I do like the running boards a little bit more on the Storyteller compared to the Revel. Mine become very slippy. These can be slippery as well, but they are sort of treaded, so it's not that like slick rubber that you'll find on the Revels. Now, let's head into the interior. As we come in here, this outdoor table is little bit nicer because you don't have the leg underneath that I have to screw in with my van. They have changed that on the newest Revels, and it's a design pretty similar to this. We have the fridge access over here as opposed to in like the hallway of the Revel, so a little bit easier to access from outside the van. It's also much deeper. You have a bunch of controls here for the awning and awning lights. Those are dimmable. And then we'll first talk about the chassis. I hit on this a lot in my problems with the Storyteller video, so definitely go give that a watch. Some of the things that I like are the heated seats, the leather. I prefer cloth, but they don't bother me. The driving assists are nice, like the lane departure and the dynamic cruise control. The stereo upgrades that they do in this thing sound better than stock, however not quite as nice as the Roamrig Alvan's Beatbox stereo system. You got a big infotainment screen up here, you got navigation and all that good stuff. Overall, this thing feels more like an actual Mercedes, like a car, as opposed to my van, which feels still like a cargo van. And that's something that I actually like. Now coming to the control panel, this is something that I've talked about for a little while as well in some other videos. You got lighting controls, climate controls, and everything featured on this screen here. This has been very nice, however, because it is digital, I'm afraid that if I lose this screen for some reason, I'm not going to be able to control some of the systems in here. HVAC is found right here. On the home screen, that's where you'll see your water. Water storage for this van is 21 gallons of fresh water and 24 gallons of gray water. You got your water heater, water pump controls here. You can also control the water pump on physical switches. And then we have controls for the vent, the AC, the heat. You will notice that for the MaxxAir fan here, there are no controls, so you have to control it with the screen. Same thing with the AC in the rear. And then for the lighting, this is where you can control everything. A master dimmer switch, if I pop that on, everything in the van is now on. They're all individually dimmable. So far, very nice. I haven't had any issues. I don't know if anyone out there has had issues with them, but makes me a little bit nervous knowing that everything is on this screen. Over here, the Volta system, this is where you're going to control your inverter. And it's doing that thing that I talked about in my con video. I mentioned that this is one of the problems that I've had with this system. For some reason, this screen will not turn on. Typically, if it's asleep, you tap it and it wakes up, but as you can see, it's not doing anything. So I talked about the fix in that other video. It's kind of weird timing. If I turn off the master switch here, let everything cool down for a second, and then pop that master switch back on. It'll take a second for everything to reboot. You can hear some of the switches resetting in the back. Now we can actually access this again. I actually like this panel and all the information that they're giving you. The pack temp I talked about in previous videos, the power flow. This is how you actually control your inverter to turn that on. So a little bit buggy, and I'm afraid that if something like that happens with this, that is where you could run into issues if you can't get that thing back up online. Now for the rest of the van. If I was purchasing a classic, there's honestly not a whole lot I would change about this. The reason I added the GLSS system in my van is because there wasn't a great seating area. It's basically just a bench seat about like this right here, but the Groove Lounge is super modular. If I move these window shades out of the way, window shades are okay, it's nice that they're included, but they're not quite as nice as the upgraded ones that I have. So if I get those out of the way, I can lift the back of this up. And now you have a full passenger seat with pull-tested seat belts here. So these are going to be incredibly safe when compared to my version of Revel. I don't know if they have updated this on the new ones or not, but you could actually strap a car seat in here and it is all completely safe. Previously, my van was built on like a freaking balsa wood frame and it was not good. So when I updated that and the Roamrig system in there, that is where we swapped that whole thing out for an actual steel box that houses all of the lithium components. Now you can also flip the seat forward, get access to a little bit of a storage compartment here, tiny little safe, and then I can also flip this little backrest down, and now you sort of have like the lounge seat, hence Groove Lounge. You can slide the backrest back even further, sit here, talk to your therapist about how much money you just spent on a van, whatever. And then you can also lay it completely flat for a friend to sleep on, or basically just turn it into a couch. If you watch my skiing videos, you can sit a bunch of people right here, get all your gear on, put your boots on, and I really like the modularity of this. So this is a great seating and hangout solution. That is one of the reasons why I added the GLSS to my van, because my bench seat is not modular like this. Again, some people are going to like the Revel and some people are going to like this setup as well. Now let's move on to the kitchen. I do like the placement of this fridge a little bit more than where mine is, and on the newest Revels they actually have moved it over to this position. I'm not sure which is bigger. I believe this one may be, but don't quote me on that. You have standard outlets all over the van, over here, over there by the lounge. You have a nice deep sink. That's something that the Revel also has. And then for some more controls, you have a sink drain pump, the water pump, cargo lights for the rear, and the hot water circ. This is something that the Revel does not have. I kind of wish my own personal van had this, but essentially what this does is once you have the water pump running and your hot water on, you can press and hold that for a little bit and it will, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's essentially sending hot water directly to your faucet and your shower. That way you're conserving water by not having to run it while you're letting your shower warm up. So instant hot water with that. Really nice touch. Storage is roughly the same on here. You have some nice drawers with metal latches. Mine are plastic. Newer Revels are updated. You'll notice that the countertop on here is nice, wide, and open. On mine, I have the induction cooktop built in, which doesn't really bother me, but I do prefer how this one stows in a drawer because I'm not always using the induction cooktop, so it's nice that you can pack it out of the way. Up top here, they do include a Bluetooth speaker. Nice touch, and then to the right of that, a little 700 watt microwave. Very similar to the one that I installed in my van. The newest Revels don't come with a microwave, at least to my knowledge. So having that is a huge plus. I use my microwave all the time, and I used it a lot while traveling around in this van as well. Now we'll move on to probably one of the most controversial topics of the Storyteller versus the Revel, the bathroom situation. When I put the back to the Groove Lounge all the way up, you will notice that there's a little lagoon table right here which mounts towards the front of the lounge. I definitely like this table over the one in the Revel. The newest Revel is similar, it stows away, but I would still probably prefer this one. Over on the side here, one thing of storage, and then the left cabinet houses the Halo shower. This is the make or break part for a lot of people. Now, when I originally bought my van, Storyteller wasn't really around. The first model released in 2019 and I got a 2018 chassis on mine. I could have waited a little bit and got a newer chassis van and a newer Revel, but Storyteller really wasn't popping up on the map until long after I already had my van. One of the main selling points of my van is that I knew I was going to live in it and I didn't want to have to set up a shower and toilet anytime I wanted to use it. The Revel definitely feels more segmented off because of the bathroom, shower, storage closet situation in there. The Storyteller seems a lot more open. And originally, traveling around in the Storyteller, I really liked the open space. I still like it. It gives you a little bit more functionality, more people can probably hang out in here as opposed to a Revel. It's just a different feeling type of van, and depending on how you're going to use it, one option is probably going to be better than the other. So I opted for the Revel because there is no setup time, but after using this for the past 2 weeks, setup time is really not all that bad. So I'm not going to pull the shower out right now. If you guys want to see me using this thing, check back through some older videos, but essentially this thing pops out to about here. The bottom of this shelf flips down, so you have a ton of space in here actually. And then if I remove this little latch, flip that up, now you have access to the shower basin. The toilet in the Revel is a cassette toilet, so you empty it out the side, it is fixed into place, whereas this, on the other hand, has a little Dometic 970. This is a 2.6 gallon capacity portable toilet. You fill it with water, it flushes. It's good to get you by, but it's probably not going to be as convenient as having a toilet already set up. As I was traveling around, I just took this toilet out because it's not my van. I'm not going to use a toilet. That is not mine. So that thing is still new in the box, and all of the Storytellers do come with those. So setup to use either the toilet or shower may take like a minute or two. Once the shower is over, you're going to want to let that thing dry out instead of just rolling it up in here. The shower curtains supposedly have a very long life. Even if it does get like a little bit moldy or anything, you can take it off of this actual mount and throw it in a washing machine. I was a little bit skeptical about this setup at first, but I actually came to like it in the end. Main reason I like it is just because of how open it leaves the van then. So think about this whole setup, either a fixed-in bathroom / storage closet in the Revel, or a sort of modular setup like this, because we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the end. Now moving to the cargo area of this van, the bed flips up on each side like that and it feels nice and open in here. Because I don't have a seating arrangement like the Groove Lounge in the Revel, that's why I opted for the GLSS system. Still a cargo area and I can remove those very easily, but with this layout it makes it a little bit easier to turn it into cargo mode and throw a motorcycle in here, skis, whatever you may have. These cabinets, like I mentioned in my problems with the Storyteller video, are completely removable, so if you don't want this storage here, you can get it out of your way. I kept bonking my head on this in the middle of the night, so I would probably pull out this back one above my head if I had a classic. And then companies like Canyon Adventure Vans do make modular drop-ins here out of 80/20. I believe they have a way where you can actually mount this down below. I've seen one-wheel mounts and all sorts of stuff, so lots of cool stuff coming from Canyon Adventure Vans. Now what's nice about this bed system is that over here we have the electrical, over here we have the water. They are on little pull tabs, so if I pull that off, this drops down, and then there are legs which you will extend down to the cargo floor. Put one leg over there, one leg right there, and you have a nice solid bed. If you pop this cushion off, it turns into a standing desk area as well, so if you're going to be working out of the van, really cool to have a lot of space like that. I like standing desks. I personally have one in my own office. So that's just a little bit different functionality as opposed to the Revel. What else are we missing back here? I feel like I'm going all over the place. I think this water fill-up station on the Storyteller is a lot more dummy-proof than the Revel. Both systems are not very hard to use, but I think the water system's a little bit easier to use over here. Got the shades in the back door, and I think that's pretty much it. So now for the final verdict, Storyteller versus Revel. This is coming down to personal opinions and preferences, and it basically comes down to what do you want to do with the van. When I was purchasing a van, I went with the Revel originally because it was the best option at the time. There really wasn't a whole lot more out there that was a turnkey option with a ton of functionality. I like that the bathroom is segmented off. It has the shower in there. You don't need to do any setup or breakdown. The toilet is fixed into place, and it also doubles as storage. It sections off the van a little bit, which some people may not like. However, I like it because I don't have to do that setup, and it makes it feel a little bit more built with intention. So you have the hangout area up front, you have the bathroom, the kitchen, then you have the cargo area and the bed. For the same reason I like that, I also like the Storyteller. It's sort of the opposite of that. All of the spaces kind of combine into one modular unit, and you can move things around and use the van in a lot of different ways as opposed to being segmented off. So I think the best way for me to describe this is if anyone is thinking about living in a van and you don't want to deal with all of the setup and moving things around all the time, then the Revel might be a good option for you. You have everything fixed into place, kind of segmented off, and it feels more like a home, I guess. Still very functional. You got a cargo area, great place to sleep, cook, and do all of your living things. When it comes to a van that you're going to use for a little bit of work and a whole lot of play, I think that's where the Storyteller comes in. The way it's laid out in modular allows you to use the van in a lot of different ways, which as of right now is perfect for me. You guys probably know my lifestyle currently. I'm constantly traveling around doing different activities like skiing, riding mountain bikes, riding motorcycles. I basically am using my own personal van right now as like a cargo adventure van. I'm working out of it, making videos and doing things like that. I'm not always using the functionality like the shower and the toilet and things like that in my van, so the fact that the Storyteller keeps that stuff out of the way, that's a nice touch. So what it comes down to is if you're planning on living in the van and using it a lot, I think the Revel is a great option. If you plan on using it sort of like a weekend warrior, maybe just doing like a week-long trip here or there, then maybe the Storyteller is more up your alley. I can't really make that decision for you guys, but I will say that right now, in my current lifestyle and all the things that I'm doing, given all of the prices and inflation and everything going on, choosing between a brand new Revel and a brand new Storyteller Classic, I would definitely opt for the Classic and then modify it myself. Now, like I mentioned, I'm not in the market for a new van. I have dialed my van in so well to fit my needs that I don't plan on selling my van and upgrading to a Storyteller. If the opportunity came where I could buy a Storyteller and it wasn't going to completely break my bank, then I would definitely consider it. Having two vans for comparisons and stuff like this in the future would be really cool. A rig like this would be perfect for someone who is travel nursing, like my girlfriend Ashley. So having two different vans, the Revel would be perfect to live out of on a travel nursing assignment, and then a Storyteller would be perfect for going to the mountain and skiing. I'm just sort of talking in circles at this point. I'm gonna let you guys make your own decision based off of your lifestyle and what you would do with a van like this right now. Which would you pick? If price didn't really matter, would you go with a brand new Revel or would you go with a Storyteller Overland? The LT on the Ford chassis, the Classic, the Stealth, or the Beast? I'm curious to hear all of your guys' thoughts on this. Now, I know this was a lot of information all at once, so if you guys have any questions on my personal van, head on over to sciproductions.com/scigarage. You can find full build sheets for all of my vehicles over there, between the Sat van, the Satlander, Tacoma, the motorcycles, everything else in my garage. You can find all that stuff over there. If you have any questions on my van or the Storyteller lineup specifically, let me know in the comments down below and I will try to answer anything as best as possible. Huge thank you to Storyteller for giving me this opportunity to test out a van for a little while. I hope you guys enjoyed all the content over the past 2 weeks and hopefully it provided some value to future customers, to Storyteller the business, and hopefully you guys got some entertainment out of it and enjoyed it. Now, if you are new to this channel, consider clicking subscribe. I make new videos every single week. As always, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you in the next one.